Well, the UFC 264 broadcast teams have been announced, and some ESPN stalwarts are going to be coming from their fancy offices in Connecticut down to Vegas to shine their just wealth of knowledge on us, boys. It's Stephen A. Smith, our friend that's been here before, and Max Kellerman, boxing analyst on First Take, on plenty of different shows. Lots of mixed reaction here. Lots of mixed reaction to Stephen A. coming back, because we've seen what he's said before. And Max Kellerman as well, now being a part of this. I guess I'll throw it to you first, Ant. How do you like the idea of Stephen A. and Max joining UFC 264's broadcast team? Is it good because it's bigger names on the broadcast, or is it detracting because they're Stephen A. and Max Kellerman?
I mean, it's Stephen A. So get trash. Like just know he has no place on this broadcast. And I think in particular, when you look at the card, we've got at least we got 2 women's fights on here that I'm counting right now. I see Jennifer Maia and Jessica Ai, and in the main card is Irene Aldana and Yana Kunitskaya. This is the same guy who very recently made a big stink because women's mixed martial arts just isn't for him, and women shouldn't hit each other and whatever else he was talking about. If that's the case, fine. You're entitled to your own opinion, no matter how stupid it may be. But get the hell up off the broadcast. You don't belong there talking about women fighting. If this is so distasteful to you and so objectionable in your eyes, get the hell off the broadcast. I think if you're going to showcase something for the UFC in clearly a tentpole event, like something that is going to attract a lot of casual viewers, people who otherwise would not be watching mixed martial arts, maybe present the best and not just something that's kind of familiar. I will say though, I am curious as to what Max Kellerman will be like on the broadcast. He's someone who I've liked his style of commentary a lot in boxing. And he's a very, very knowledgeable person when it comes to boxing. And despite the gap between boxing and mixed martial arts, he's someone who, for the most part, has been very supportive of MMA and is very open to discuss what he doesn't know. It's like, hey, I don't understand the kicking as much. I don't understand the grappling, but what I do understand is this. I'm very curious as to what that's going to look like on the broadcast, because there will be no person anywhere in that building that knows no more about hitting someone with your hands than Max Kellerman. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much completely agree with you, Ants, on everything there. It's a lot better to have Max, than it is to have Steven, if you're going to have one over the other and getting both of them. So it's a bit silly, a little unnecessary, I think. Obviously familiar faces, like you said, Pat, and it brings in that feeling, but like people are going to watch anyway, right? It just does not feel needed. And I think even the people who do know them are going to know that, depending on how much of a fan they are of MMA, they're going to know that, like, what are they doing here? It's like, it just feels out of their element a little bit. And at the same time, while I agree with everything Ant said, it's like, I still don't think this is that big of a deal, because do we really know how much they're going to be featured throughout the night? Like, yeah, they're surely going to talk about the main event, portions of it, maybe opening up the main card or something like that. But like, they're not on commentary. Like, and that's what I saw a lot of people on social media thinking that, oh, what? These guys are going to commentate the fight? No, they're not. You just don't read articles is the thing, you guys. You got to actually read past the headlines a little bit. So this is an unnecessary thing to have, with these two guys. Are a lot better options if you wanted to have maybe more knowledgeable, bigger name people that weren't MMA exclusive. I can't think of anyone in particular because I'm pretty in the MMA bubble, but not the best choices. But at the same time, how much is it really going to affect? How much airtime are they going to get? Sure, they will get some, but I don't know, unless I missed that detail in the whole articles myself. But I don't know. I just think it could be worse. They're not on commentary.
Thank God they're not on commentary. I do think that this is a big lost opportunity, though, for the UFC and ESPN. I mean, of course, if you've tuned into ESPN, you've seen those two faces a lot. If you've watched any of their programming, you've seen Stephen A. Smith. He's all over the place. Max Kellerman has been around the network for as long as I can clearly remember, like Friday Night Fights on ESPN. He was commentating a lot of those. But I think this is a lost opportunity because you're going to have so many different eyeballs on this that otherwise would not be looking at the UFC. They're not the people that are going to be there every Saturday watching, Fight Night 123 from the Apex Center. They're not the people watching that. Maybe this is a good time to showcase some of the active talent that you have that does fine work behind the desk. This would be a great time to put a charismatic personality like an Angela Hill in front and center. It seems like a lost opportunity to me.
Yeah, so I am in agreement with Max Kellerman in that I think he's going to at least be open about what he doesn't know and have good insights for what he does. And yes, they are on the desk, right? I believe it's going to be Max and Karyn Bryant on one desk, and then Stephen A. With forget who else is up with Stephen A. But that they're going to go back and forth. There's no telling how much they'll actually have airtime depending on how the fights go. If there's a lot of decisions, probably not that much. If there's some quick knockouts, they'll probably go back and forth quite a bit. But I really appreciate that when the UFC was on Fox, they didn't, wheel out Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp to come and talk.
I want to talk about a real train wreck.
Sumo wrestling, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that they didn't do that, because when you heard them talk on their show, when you heard them on Undisputed talking about Nate versus Conor or anything, it was terrible. The stuff they were saying made no sense. Stephen A. and Max Kellerman
TikTok level.
Yeah, I'd say worse than TikTok level. Stephen A. and Max are better than that. And I understand the synergistic effect here, right? You want those bigger ESPN personalities to shine on MMA, because if they shine on MMA and then they get more into MMA, or they're talking about MMA more on their own shows, right? Because Stephen A. has 1 million shows, Max Kellerman's on 3 or 4 at any given time, then that brings more of the casual audience, hopefully, over to your sport. So I understand the idea behind this, but what really bugs me about it is ESPN never hired someone like an Angela Hill or someone that should have gone on those shows to talk about MMA all the time, even if it was just kind of recurring segments or whatever. You have Chael, you had Ariel, right? But that was still like you didn't get the same type of gravitas. And now you're shifting back over to, mainstream guys that never talk about the sport, never really are doing much about it. I don't think it's going to draw more viewers whatsoever. I don't think it's going to be particularly great commentary. My only hope is that both Stephen A. and Max get more educated about the sport. And then when they do talk about big fights, they are able to speak on it more accurately. That's literally my only hope, because the last thing I want to do is turn on another, Stephen A. Max Kellerman debate where they just list a bunch of stats that are all wrong. We're talking about how Conor's the greatest fighter that ever lived and all this other stuff. And then, how, just total inaccuracy. It's no, I don't want to see it, man. I don't.
Yeah. And what I was going to say was, them not talking about MMA very much in what they already regularly do. But when they do talk about it, they don't talk greatly or with much knowledge, right? Like Ant mentioned the women thing with Steven. So it's like, yeah, it's just an interesting move. And the thing that I'm most curious about is you can pretty much guarantee that they will be shown on the prelims for sure, because they generally do that. When there's time to kill, if there's a lot of finishes, they got extra time before the pay-per-view starts. But if they actually show them on the pay-per-view, because that's something the UFC doesn't ever really go to the desk on the pay-per-views, right? Like, unless I've missed it. So that's the interesting thing to me, is that it seems a whole lot more in that, when you look at it that way, assuming a lot more of a casual thing, even though the casuals for this event we'll still go to the pay-per-view, but to kind of draw them in before, if that's the main idea, which surely it is, but if they do show them on the pay-per-view, that would be interesting. I do remember the one time that Stephen A was with Joe Rogan, but I don't remember which part of that show that was. Maybe you guys do, but
that, if I'm remembering correctly, that was like kind of the. I just remember they were doing sort of. He took Dana's place for like that whole yelling at the camera about why you need to order the pay-per-view. I remember that part, and then like some words afterward, but that was really it. I thought he also won't be on the pay-per-view most likely.
Yeah, I thought he also was in the opener, right? When they have DC and Rogan and everyone. So my guess is that Stephen A or Max will be there, or both will be there for the very opener. But after that, probably not. And I would say that normally for pay-per-views, right, that's not a thing where they would go back to the desk that often. But it because it's a McGregor fight, wouldn't be shocked if there's a set walkout time, right? And then so if you've got a bunch of knockouts or finishes early and you've got to fill time, they would easily, go back to the desk or do something like that. But yeah, it's frustrating because with other sports, they always bring on an expert, right? Like you're talking about NFL, then you usually bring back, someone from like a linebacker or an analyst, pro player turned analyst. You'd bring them on to talk with Stephen A and Max Kellerman on their show about the sport and kind of be that expert and shine more light on it that way. They do it all the time on several different shows. But for MMA, they never really did that. I think they brought Helwani on once, but then it was mostly just Helwani in his own little bubble. And that's just kind of...
And they've had Brett Okamoto do a couple things here and there. They've had post-fight shows that featured Helwani and Mark Raymundi and Okamoto. So they might do some auxiliary content in that regard with the MMA, staples. But just bringing in some of the other stuff, I'm not understanding.
And it's never Okamoto and Helwani like with Stephen A and Kellerman, right? It's
right. I don't remember ever seeing anything like that.
Yeah, that's like, I guess that's my point. Where with other sports, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, they usually get somebody. Hockey, they get somebody to kind of like come on their show and then talk about it a bit with them and be kind of the expert while they're all talking about it. They don't really do that with MMA. They've kind of just like, MMA's over here. Yeah, we've got this huge deal where we're paying ungodly amounts of money to them, but like, hey, here's your niche corner. Like, you guys are sitting right over here. Like, you stay over there and we're going to just be on our show doing our thing. And it's that's where the missed opportunity has been, in my opinion, for ESPN. If you're going to have Max and Stephen A come do the broadcasts, the big pay-per-views, have more experts on their show regularly when it comes to main events and bigger fights. If it comes to an Adesanya pay-per-view, an Ngannou pay-per-view, and anybody that could potentially be a star, have Okamoto, have a fighter, have Chael, have somebody come on the show and talk with them in a roundtable so it gets more credibility. Because right now it's just like that redheaded stepchild of it's Drake, basically, just over in the corner, That's what it is.
No, but that got personal. So remember, like, subscribe, share, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, tell that friend to tell 10 more friends. Thanks for watching the Body Lock.
Let me just go ahead and there we go.
All right.